Well. Looks like them Duke boys are in real trouble. Oh, wait. Is that the wrong movie? I forget. Anyway, welcome back to my girlfriend's garage, folks. Working on the Camaro as per usual. But, as per not usual, we have all the parts that we're going to need. So I'll turn you around here and show you where we're at, starting inside the car. So I cleaned up in here, cleaned up a little bit over here, cleaned up some on the bench. But, as far as in here goes, check out that dashboard. That is a fully assembled dash. Well, except for that panel right there, but that's sitting over there. I have the bolts for the radio, or the little screws for the radio and the AC and the headlight. Controls all sitting in the cup holder over there. Everything is present and accounted for. And the pièce de résistance, my gauge cluster. Yeah. See if I can't get a better picture of that. Yeah, check those bad boys out. Got everything installed. So I got my standard gauges, obviously mile per hour, RPM, oil pressure, coolant temp, fuel, and voltage. And then my accessory gauges are over here, as opposed to being up here, because this looks much better in my opinion. So I'm super happy with how all that came together. It was a bit of a beast. You can see the wires coming out right there. And these are these wires are from the top gauge, the fuel gauge, and these wires into this big harness down here are all from the bottom gauge. And what I had to do was, I could have made my window behind the tack right there much smaller than it was, but no real loss because it's covered up by the gauge and then the window anyway. But what I did was drill another hole. Ow, that was the stud for the seat. I drilled another hole right there. You can see that where these wires are coming through. And so they those wires go through the back of this bezel back here and then around the side of the inside of this bezel and then in between around the clear glass, or the clear plastic, so that you can't see them when you're looking through the dash. And then they go down here, back this way a little bit, and then down. You can see them hanging right here. So they go up this way, come towards us a little bit, go up again, and then come towards us and go back to the gauge. So that all fit together really well. I'm happy. Dash is super solid. No squeaks, no rattles, no nothing. So after the trans is in and the cutout is in, I'll have all my wires fed through. This is for, let's see, we got the O2, we got the nitrous pressure, and we have the output for the gauge in case we get the computer program that we ever want to plug into it. So everything is set there. This is the roll control, which is coming out right here. Got the light on it. This is the purge, which will be coming out there after the engine gets installed, because that stuff will go on here. And there's a solenoid a hard line coming in through the side. This is the nitrous control system. The fuel solenoid, which will get wired to the nitrous solenoid. No, that's the fuel solenoid. That's the nitrous solenoid. They'll get wired together. That will come through there as well. And then the cutout will come up through this hole and go into the center console. So this is as far as I'm going to assemble the interior for now. I'm going to leave that loose so I can pop that panel off. I'll need access to one of these wires in here. So this is loose still, as you can see. So I can yank that out, but I'm just going to leave it right there for now because I'll have to tap into there for dimming on these gauges. And then I'll mount switches in there, switches maybe somewhere up here, and then lights somewhere in this panel here or in here. I'm not exactly sure. I don't want them up here. The only thing I'm going to have my little shift light going, and then everything else will be centered there. So the other lights will be somewhere in this region right here when they're all said and done. So I'll have the roll control light, the nitrous arming light, and then the purging light as well. And then the switch for the switch for the roll control will be on the shifter. The switch for the cutout will be in the probably in the center console, and then the arming switch for the nitrous will be somewhere incognito, like maybe the ashtray. I'm not sure yet, but yeah, we'll see how that goes. So fun stuff there, but even more fun stuff here. Uh-oh, Jesse's about to get shot. More fun stuff here. Oil pump spacers. I'm gonna RTV a little bit on this right here because that is what goes up against the block normally right here, and I'm gonna have this spacer in between so I don't want it to seep at all. So very thin film of RTV around this hole. That triangle spacer goes here, the other one goes there. Then this oil pump goes on. I'll pop the front cover off so I can shim it, and then that'll get torqued down. We'll put our sump on, and then we'll flip this over to verify we have clearance for the oil pan, which we will then get lightly installed except for the rear and the front bolts. And then I'll put the front cover on. We'll test fit it with our double roller timing chain. We'll edit that as necessary. And then once we have that how we want it, we'll get that loosely installed, torque the oil pan down, and then tighten this down. And then that'll be it for the front of this motor. And then after that, it can go on the engine crane. And the mounts will go on, the motor mounts will go on, the clutch and flywheel will go on. Oh, but before that, the rear cover will go on before any of that. Just pause. Then the flywheel and the clutch with my new tool that's in there, and then we can start measuring depth for the transmission, because after that is set, then this will go via the crane onto here, and then we can come in our trunk and get our intake out and put that on top of the engine. So lots of fun stuff will be happening shortly with the ARP balancer bolt. Got the tool from Todd so I can drill it and pin it. This obviously has a keyway in there, but the LS does not have a keyed crank normally. It is just press fit, and we're changing that. This engine will not be forced induction, but it's always good to have a pinned balancer so you know it won't spin on you. So I'm gonna get my trusty light out of here. I'll close the door, button this up for now. But yeah, very happy with these bad boys in particular. Really incognito, but also if you know what you're looking at, it just looks, I don't know, in my opinion, it just looks really good. So much better than these clashy gauges up here, especially if they're mounted like right here and just coming out like, no, this is gonna be infinitely better. So already glad I went with it. The fitment was, it was a bit of a, I don't know, it was hard, but it wasn't anything unexpected. It was, I'll say par for the course for custom parts. So drilling holes, custom fitting, refitting, running wires, yeah. It all went well. It took me probably 5-6 hours to get all that in, so, and the wires routed happily. So then when I put the kick panel on, everything is hidden and nothing will drape by the pedals. So lots of soldering to do, but that's later. So very fun stuff. I'm going to pop this front cover off this oil pump and get that installed, and we will come back at you guys after we got an oil pan and a front cover on. And because after that, I got to run to O'Reilly's to get my installer tool to install this bad boy, and we'll install it, drill it, pin it, and final install this big bad new bolt. So yeah, very fun stuff. Come back at you in a bit. Hey garage people, coming at you with an update. Got the oil pump on and torqued. I just got to mark the bolts, and I thought I'd show you guys real quick. I got two 2,000th shims here, and I already have them removed, but I had them before. They were in this way, so they're very flexible, and so I had it turned, and I had it going all the way around this circle here, and then this circle down here. And then I made sure it was centered, and then while I was holding it, I torqued it down. So then once I pull these out, I originally used, that goes there. I originally slid this whole thing out to get those out because they were tight in there. But this gap on top is just about 2 thousandths. It's a tight 2, and the gap on the bottom here is just a tight 2 as well. And as you can see, that comes out super easy. I can take out all of this stuff. The whole pump assembly slides out. And even the collar for the oil pump drive slides out. So that's how you could really tell that you got this thing centered on your crankshaft. So that this thing slides down there like no problem. That will not interfere whatsoever. And this slides back on that as well, and that does not interfere with the case. So I'm going to put some Loctite on these little cap bolts and put this cap on. That goes on this cover, and then I'll flip this over and do the do the sump or the pickup and measure the sump to make sure that everything's hunky-dory. And if that's good, then we will put the front cover on and measure that, make sure that it's centered on here, and then we'll probably have to run and get our balancer installer. So very fun. As you can see, my ported oil pump in there, or my ported passageway, looking very good. And then the outlet or the inlet from the pickup right there, super smooth. Yeah, so very excited with this unit. It's went together super easy, as they usually do if you know what you're doing. So yeah, that's how I shim those. Be back at you later. Hey garage folks, I'm coming at you. Got back from O'Reilly's, and I'm currently outside of my girlfriend's garage. And I didn't even wear a jacket when I went to O'Reilly's because it is like 16 degrees out, and man, sitting in the sun right here, and there's not really much breeze right next to the house. It's nice. But anyway, back to the matter at hand. I'll turn you guys around and we'll head back inside. Gonna be needing that shortly because ta-da! Front cover on. Oil pump's under there. Oil pan is on with the new gasket. Everything is torqued. Well, not the oil pan bolts aren't torqued. All this stuff is torqued, as you can see from the paint marks. So that's ready for what we're gonna do next, which is install our next new part. This awesome Summit underdrive racing damper. It will free up some horsepower for us because it is smaller, so it'll rotate the belts less. And then we got our new ARP bolt that we're gonna install it with after we drill it with our tool to pin the balancer. This is keyed for keyway, but as you can see, this is not. So we'll put this tool on here, and I'll line it up like that, and as you can see, there, the hole that you drill through is halfway on the crank, and it'll be halfway on the new damper slash balancer. So when we put it in here, you can see that again. Look at that, see? Half and half. Well, obviously it's different if you rock it, but straight on, it's half and half. So, we'll mount this with the reason why I went to O'Reilly's, the new tool. This was, I'm gonna Google it and see exactly how much they go for on the non-O'Reilly's, but this was 50 bucks at O'Reilly's, and it is brand new. No one's used it before, so I may hold on to it because I plan on doing more of these. So, that being said, this one is the one that works in these crankshafts right here. It threads in, and then the tool threads down and pushes the balancer on. So, what you're not supposed to do is hit this with an impact, which I'm going to try to avoid. Maybe just to finally seat it once we have it all the way down, but we'll see. So yeah, I'm going to get this on here, get this on and drilled, and once that is done, then I will make sure this is centered, and we'll torque that down, torque these down, torque all those bolts down, and then, at long last, this baby can come off the stand and go back on the crane, and we can finally crack this box open, which is our clutch and flywheel assembly. Because after this goes on the crane, the rear cover goes on, we center it, put the oil pan bolts through the bottom, the long ones, and torque everything. They get a really low torque, it's like 100 inch-pounds or something. And when that is on, that blocks off the oil passages and everything like that. And then the flywheel goes on, which our new one is in here. We got a lightweight flywheel. Let this baby rev up quick. So yeah, very fun stuff shortly ahead. I've used these before and they've worked well in the past, so I'm not gonna throw this in the oven because I'm gonna fill in this keyway with RTV and I don't want it to slop all over the place. So I'm gonna lube this up with some of my driven sitting over here, and yeah, I'll go from there. I'll let you guys know how it goes. Wish me luck. Woo! I got some trash. Woo! All right, ladies and gentlemen, got some true crime on the TV. Got a beverage. Got a balancer on with a little hole. Look at that. That little fixture works wonders. Half on the crank, half on the balancer. We got a little dowel piece of metal, a 1/4 inch right here. This is actually the back half of the shank of the drill bit that drilled the hole. I figured it's only fitting, right? One of these things is a little shorter than the other, which is funny. I actually cut this off right after I bought it because I needed it to fit in a smaller space. When I put a time cert in on a snapped header bolt on my Suburban in the fall in Montana before the snow came on, when I took off the manifolds and put shorty headers on it for no reason other than to satisfy my own urges. So we're gonna get this installed with the new bolt, and then we will torque up our oil pan and our front cover will be centered and we'll be very happy. So yeah, get that dowel in there, get the new bolt in with the washer, some thread locker on the dowel so it stays where we want, and some thread locker on that so it stays where we want, and just ram it home. I think the torque figure calls for like 230 foot-pounds or something, but we're just gonna let the big dog eat, with help from this, of course. So yeah, it's going pretty well. I'm gonna do that, and then after that, the only thing that there is left to do is put the engine on the crane, so I think I might do that. And then when Jenny gets home, which she is on her way, we are going to do a little bit of packing, I think, for this weekend, and maybe a little bit of cleaning on some new acquisitions that we've gotten. So I think she might be out here in the garage with us later, if all goes well. So get this thing on the hanger and get that rear cover on, we can start having fun with the clutch. That's the goal. So yeah, keep on moving forward. Yes, much happy with this. Yo, we've got an engine defying gravity. She's on the engine crane once again, folks, fully buttoned up. We've got ourselves a long block. Our summit damper is on with our ARP bolt. Smile! Everything is awesome. This engine came back together perfectly. Front cover is on and centered on the crank. Rear cover is on and centered on the output shaft with both new seals. I've got my new bolts up here with the Loctite already on them. Clutch bolts are already in. So the next step will be, oh, it looks like it's already marked for me as well. Yep, we got a marker there, and a marker there. 1, 2, 3. Sweet. So this clutch is already marked and ready to go. So I can take out these bolts with my rattle gun and then get this flywheel mounted up here on the back end of this crankshaft. There's Loctite on these. I can't remember if I already said that. I'm going to dab a little bit of liquid on there as well, just to double up. And then we'll snug them up and then tighten them down in a star pattern. I can't remember the specs right now. I'll look them up. And then, actually, probably before any of that, we'll install our pilot bearing, our new one. So yeah, that's fun. Remember getting that old one out? Remember that? With the slide hammer way back, like month and change ago? That was a month and a half, 2 months ago maybe even? Yeah, check that out. Much different. But you can kind of see these holes are blind. If you look down the barrel of the hole, you can see the engine block on that one. And there's one of the that's down the crankshaft. And then you can see the main cap if you look through that one. So these bolts definitely need sealant on them, otherwise you will leak oil. It's not pressurized. This is a manual transmission, so it'll just flow. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter if it's auto either, but it will eventually seep oil past these threads if you don't seal them. So we're gonna seal them up real good. But other than that, this baby is ready to go. We are attached with some bell housing bolts here for the time being, because we need to get this on and torqued down, and then we mount up our bell housing here, and then we measure. I can't remember what exactly, but it's all outlined in this nice file from Monster Clutches. Which brings us to this point. This is a Monster Clutch. It is a dual disc. I believe it's a stage 2 plus or something like that. It's rated up to like 800, I think, wheel torque, or 650 or 700 or something like that, 850 horsepower, I don't know, something right in those ranges. It'll be excellent for what we're going to do. It's a dual disc, but it's streetable just like a single, so it'll grip, but it won't be crazy. We've got a brand new master cylinder. I think these are Monster sourced, but they are, I think they're GM parts, but I've got this billet throwout bearing installed in there as well for extra smooth engagement. So that was a little bit extra. I think it was like another 20 bucks or something. The shim pack was like 40 bucks. And then this speed bleeder was another 50 or so. And that will attach to the trans and then run up under the hood and pop up right in front of my windshield wiper, kind of at the shock tower under the hood for bleeding the clutch, which will make a huge difference. These are money on Corvettes, and I've done it once before with this when I put the Tickmaster in. And yeah, it's definitely, we're going to go with this. It's going to make a world of difference as far as ease for bleeding goes. So those things will all go in due time. You can see right here, we got our gauges in, looking pretty. Yeah, still so happy with that. So yeah, let's see, I've got my puller, or my installer tool here that worked really well, but I think I'm going to return it for now because I could use the 50 bucks and I don't need that tool for any time in the foreseeable future. Shout out David Freiberger, working on some Mopars. He's the man.
It is 6 months later.
This was just posted. Yeah, so this engine, for all intents and purposes, is done for now. It just needs these goodies stacked on the back of it. So I'm going to do a little bit of cleaning up, and we might have some food or something. The girlfriend and I have to do a little bit of packing for our trip this weekend, and she gets off early tomorrow from work, so that's awesome. But in the meantime, I'm going to go in and do some packing, and then if we come out to do a little bit of cleaning on our new appliance here. Check it out! Foosball table! Custom built. It was very nice. It was based off a kit one. These kind that she really likes with the single goalie and the angled corners and all the old school, but this dude built it himself, so it's really nice. It's got the beer holders on the side. It's light enough that you can move it, but it's nice and hefty, so yeah, super stoked on that. Yeah, but it needs some cleaning, so she might come out and clean that later, and in which case I will get my pilot bearing in and my flywheel probably on as well, because I'm really excited about that. As you can see from the cutouts, this is the lightweight one. I think it's like 20 pounds instead of 30 or something like that. So obviously was going to get a new flywheel regardless. So definitely went with a lightweight one, which I think I'm going to be glad. This thing should rev real nice. So maybe make the clutch engagement a little bit tricky, but hopefully, you know, me actually being able to drive will make up for that. Plus this nice master, or this nice slave cylinder. The tick master is still in there, which is really tunable, so that's good. And this is a dual disc and it's very streetable, so it should be just fine. We had some Corvettes back at the shop where you couldn't get them rolling without barking the tires in first because the clutch engagement was so aggressive. But those were race cars, so this is not that. So I think we're going to hit a wonderful happy medium with our monster unit and the new goodies that go inside of it. So speaking of goodies, yeah, close up on that. Sweet. All right, that may be all we're doing for this evening. And if that's the case, I'll be back out tomorrow to pop that on. But maybe this evening we'll do a little bit more. So, yeah, I'll keep you guys posted. See how much damage we can do before the weekend. Maybe even get that clutch and flywheel on and measured, and everything specs out, and we decide what shims we need on the transmission there. Maybe we even put the motor mounts on this thing and put it on the cross member. There's a couple other stuff we gotta get this on before the bell housing goes on and the starter and stuff, and then this crank position sensor goes on as well. So there's a little mount that goes on the back of the cylinder head. So yeah, everything will fall into place. But there's a couple little things we got to get on before it can go on the cross member. But after that, it can go on the cross member, and then the trans can go on, and we'll get it after the exhaust is on and the wiring harness. We'll get it back up under the car as soon as possible. After the front accessories go on as well, we got to take our old belts and measure them up to see how much shorter we need for some new ones. So there's estimates, I believe, posted in my in some of the manuals. But I'm just going to cut them, measure, and bring in the old ones. And we'll go from there. So, all in all, very stoked. So, yeah.